Welcome, everyone, to another Universal Citizens Live Saturday Sex Show. Come on into the room, everyone. If you are on the Facebook page, we have our other producer over there that is going to direct you how to come into the Zoom room. If you're on the website page, come on into the Zoom room. This is going to be an interactive show. Just like we did on our Friday show, we are bringing shows that are here to challenge you at many different layers of levels. We all have traumas. We all have inhibitions. We all have subject matters that we may call taboo. But here, we're here to help take away the trauma, take away the taboo, pull back the curtains, and allow ourselves to experience something else. We have some special guests. So, David, welcome back to the show. Let's get into this deep because we have an interactive show.
Oh, wow. Yes, we have quite a show for you tonight. We have a very dear friend of mine, Juliette Karaman, and she's all the way from UK. And Juliette is about to talk to us all about sex, trauma, and how BDSM, for those of us who don't know what that means, bondage, domination, sadism, and masochism, which is not really spoken in the right way. And we're going to deconstruct all the myths concerning this practice. We're going to deconstruct all the myths that this is a deviant practice, that this is a horrible practice, not good for society, and only weird people partake in it. Well, everyone on the show is weird anyway. So what we're going to do is we're going to introduce Juliette. Juliette, how are you?
I'm well. Thank you for having me on your show.
Absolutely. So Juliette, you're an erotic blueprint coach. What exactly is that? We had Christine on yesterday, and we want to tell the audience what erotic blueprint is we need to remind them. So tell us.
Well, erotic blueprints, there are 5 erotic blueprints, and we think that the way into sexual pleasure is to actually find your blueprint. And there is energetic, the people that feel energy, that like very light touch or no touch at all, touch away from the body. But then they're also really sensitive to the energy in a room. Like if they go into a room full of people that are just angry, they'll pick up on that. So they'll be like, oh. Then there is.
Do you mean like empaths? They're more empathic.
Very empathical, yes. Okay. Very, very much like empaths. Also, things like mobile phones might give them really bad headaches. So they're very energetic. That is what their sexual blueprint is. Then we have sensuals that like much more, silk shirts, touch, feeling things, smelling, very sensual. And that is their way into getting pleasure. And we all have a little bit of these things in us, but sometimes, husband and wife or partner will not be the same blueprint. So they don't speak the same language. They don't actually touch each other in the same way that they would like to be touched. So the next one is sexual, which is, all about, boobs and pussy, and, they don't mind using words like that. And they really go for the genitals straight away. Also, language is very important there. Then there is kinky. So kinky would be, you could have psychological kink. And it's like, how do you like, how do you like your partner to talk to you? Do you want to be dominated, or do you want to dominate him or her? And then, of course, there's the impact play. So, do you want to be spanked? Do you want scratches? Do you want soft, but then all of a sudden really harsh? That's kinky. And also you speak to them like, I'm going to use you. I'm going to do this to you. So really, you use all your senses in that one as well. And then the last one is shapeshifter. So a shapeshifter is basically someone that likes all of them equally. We all have a bit of everything of us, but sometimes, we're more energetic or we're more sensual, and that is the way to actually to go into our sexuality and that we can expand.
Okay, right next to Juliette is Alex. Alex, say hello to our audience.
Hi, how are you all?
And for those of you who haven't picked up, Alex is Juliette's partner. Alex, you want to tell the audience a little bit about yourself, or?
Sure. Juliette and I have been together for pretty close to 2 years now, and we're both very exploratory. Is that a good word? I think that's probably pretty close. I work in a professional context work, and so pretty buttoned down. But Juliette and I have been exploring each other, but also ourselves in the context of our relationship now, pretty proactively. And we're both a little unusual in that we're both Dom. And
a Dom couple. Wow.
I know.
I have so many questions.
Most people do.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, so.
Okay. And exploring that. So we're not. I would say we're not in the. There's a certain kind of couple who are into this part of the world where they are in the what they call in the lifestyle, and we're probably not so much like that because we have other stuff going on, and it's just not us. So that's cool too. So I originally from New Zealand, been in the UK for 30 years, and that's me. And working. I'm a lawyer. So
excellent. So we're gonna jump right into it. Okay. Tell us everything you know about BDSM. I know this is going to take a little while, so can you summarize? Tell us about BDSM.
Well, I would actually just call it kink. So anything which is taboo is kink, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you can boil it down to BDSM, but let's actually explain it a little bit more general. Like
excellent.
Anything that you find taboo is kink. Mm-hmm. So that could be, like it could be things as just stripping down your partner mm-hmm. and not touching him and just having him look with his eyes down. Mm-hmm. It could be getting flogged.
Could be food play.
Oh, food play, yeah. Yes, David, keep your eyes closed.
It could take a long time, David.
But
audience, I just want to know that I'm going to be meeting these people live at the end of the month. So I'm like...
That's correct. We're seeing it in a few weeks.
Yeah. We had a lot of fun in British Columbia. Whenever I say that, everybody thinks, what kind of fun are we talking about? We're talking about good, clean fun. So there's that. We had a lot of fun in British Columbia. And I'm going to be seeing y'all at the end of the month. But I interrupted you. Please tell us. So you think it's BDSM is kink? It comes under the heading of kink?
Yeah, I think yes. Anything that you find taboo, so anything that you have kind of like maybe a bit of shame about, or it's also really exciting. So there's a lot of energy right there. So it's like you want to move past that taboo and actually try it. And it's like, oh, will this turn me on or not? And like Alex was saying, there's a lot of food play, but there's also something like, just putting his hair a little bit, or, playing with his throat, saying, hey, or, just, what do you want? that is all like the sweet part of it. I mean, like, you know, you can go all the way from here to like, yeah, pulling hooks on someone, and you can have really cruel impact play, and also some people are really into sadism. That's what turns them on. They want to be humiliated. They want to sit at someone's feet and lick them and get beaten and told that they are, you know, a mommy's boy and they're no good and they'll never be good for anything. And this is what turns them on.
One of the things that I come across is, I think, is there is a lot of people who either want to be controlled or be in control. And where you flip over, and that happens in any dynamic, and whether it's the word for that kink people use for people who aren't into kink is vanilla, but you get a little bit of that even in what we would describe as a vanilla relationship. But what I think happens a lot in kink world is where you either take control or you hand over control. And this is commonly, for example, and this is almost exclusively men, but can be women as well. So you have a very high-powered corporate lawyer type, for example, who has a kind of job that is very in control of. I can't imagine who that might be. And where they have control every day, and for which people look to them for leadership and that sort of stuff. And then they go to someone like a professional dominatrix, and they give up that control for an hour and a half, or 2 hours. And it's incredibly liberating for that person to go like, I am no longer in control. You know?
I'm just going to ask, so how did you two meet again?
No, I was not his professional dominatrix.
I wasn't her professional dom either.
Yeah, so
online, so
you guys met online. That's actually quite good. So I'm going to ask a few questions and let's deconstruct some myths. So we had a few myths in the chat which I had to deconstruct in the last show. BDSM as a non-spiritual practice. Juliette, you want to chime in here, because I know that you are very spiritually inclined. So you want to probably talk to our audience and instruct them that BDSM has healing properties, I was going to say, but that's such a bad way.
It really does. I mean, so I played in BDSM a little bit in my marriage, and afterwards a bit, but you know, it was always, it didn't really get me into these heightened states. Then at one point, I started doing much more personal development and personal growth things. And then I came into this course that was called Taboo. And it was all about flogging and all about things that were taboo. So this dom in San Francisco came and taught us how to flog, and taught people how to flog us. So I got flogged right on my shoulders. And all of a sudden, I remembered I remembered my date rape. I had known my date rape already, but that I was like, oh, through this, I can actually get rid of the trauma that's associating with my date rape. So when I got back to London, I contacted a dom that I knew, and we recreated my date rape and got completely free from that. So for me, it's definitely healing. You can also take people to really ecstatic heights where it is like you are one with the universe, and it is like you're almost like your higher power, and it's a really beautiful practice when it's done properly. And when you check in with each other and really see where are you at, how far do you want to go, and keep grounded.
So the form of trauma release that you did to get over your date rape was to use a person, describe the scenario to them. Did you go into extreme levels of detail to make it just right?
Yeah, I actually had 5 guys there holding me down and reenacting the rape. I mean, they didn't penetrate me, but they did everything.
How old were you when you were raped?
Right before 19. 18
So
years.
it was one of those scenarios that was really ingrained into you.
It
And
was really ingrained, and also I buried it for about 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean, buried it?
I remember I was with my girlfriend. We both were with the partners that we were with, and went to this party, and then one happened, one guy after the other just basically had their go of us, which was really tough. And I remember screaming and kicking, and at one point we both got out and we climbed through a window and walked back home, and we never talked about it. There was so much shame there. There was so much shame, and there was so much like, oh my God, I must have somehow brought this on myself. So that I never saw her again. I was teaching English in Spain, and I buried it for myself as well. Yeah, I never told my husband because it didn't come up until much later in life.
And as you began to understand the form of trauma release that you had, you said there was a form of deep euphoria as the shame, blame, and guilt just fled out of you.
Yeah.
And that's a very special form of courageous trauma release. Now, we have a lot of people who have gone through sexual abuse at a young age, have had rapes, and many of them to this day, 20, 30, 40 years later, have no way of getting out of the shame, the blame, the guilt. And they jump into spirituality and become love and lighters.
Yes.
As another form of avoidance. Another form of avoidance.
Yes.
Absolutely a form of avoidance. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So what is your recommendation on getting rid of the avoidance mechanisms? Surrender is a general term, but maybe surrender isn't really the form that you would want to talk here.
No, I think I would really take people through some of the trauma release exercises that I've learned, and really have them also take responsibility of what happened, and then see what image comes up for them, what emotion.
You want to demonstrate one of these processes? Like, just give us an idea of how this works in actual practice.
In actual practice, with whom? Do we have someone here that wants to be taken through one?
No,
I think David just volunteered.
Okay, David.
Well, I might have some experience in the in some of the processes that she's doing. So please go ahead. I'm with you, Juliette.
I need space here.
So David, tell me the problem that you want to work on.
I think the problem that I want to work on is I need to expand my tolerance for certain kinds of inefficiencies. I think so.
Okay, so how does that have you feel when you think into having to expand your tolerance of inefficiencies?
Feels a bit frustrating because you could be efficient, but if you depend on others for efficiency, then you're not really efficient.
Okay, so you're frustrated?
Yes.
Okay. So how would you like to feel?
I think I would like to feel a lot more relaxed.
And how is this this frustration, how is it adversely affecting your life?
Well, sometimes it makes me lose a little bit of sleep sometimes, like just trying to wake up and do stuff. Okay, so it interrupts sleep sometimes.
Mm-hmm. It interrupts sleep. All right, I'm just writing this down. And how would you like to feel after the session?
A lot more relaxed, a lot more at peace with the way things transpire.
Good. Okay, so how strong is this problem, this frustration?
On a scale of 1 to 10?
1 to 10, yeah.
I'd say it was about a 7.
7 out of 10, perfect. All right, so I'm going to run a process on you, which is called a spectix.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So this frustration that you're feeling, it's a part of you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you to really go back into a time when you felt this frustration as strongly as possible, the one you felt it, and then to magnify it, to feel it as strongly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to ask you
Mm-hmm.
to talk to your aspect.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The aspect is a part of you. So it always wants the best for you. And it will have a certain goal in mind for you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So are you willing to stay with the process all the way to the end?
Absolutely.
All right. Good. So I want you to close your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And really remember a time that you felt this frustration.
Not a problem. It's already there.
Okay. Step into it.
Mm-hmm.
Experience it. Feel it as fully as you possibly can. When you're there, let me know.
Yep.
Good.
It's there.
All right. Now, where do you feel it?
In the chest, and there's a connection to the head, parietal lobe, somewhere in there.
Okay. So how big is it?
It's kind of like a pole that stretches from the chest to the head.
Okay. What color is it?
I don't know what, is it rust? Is it brown? Yeah, that kind of thing.
Rusty brown. Thank you. If it had a weight, how heavy would it be?
Enough to feel, so I'm guessing around 10 pounds.
Excellent. And age, how old is it?
About 3 months.
Great. Thank you. Now, on a scale from 1 to 10, how strong is it?
About a 7.
All right. Great. Now keep being in that experience of frustration and really, really magnify it. Then I want you to turn to your aspect and say, aspect, I know you wish the best for me. Manifest yourself fully so we can communicate. Let me know when you've gotten consent, when you've gotten compliance from your aspect.
Yes, I've gotten consent.
Great. It can be anything. It can be a voice. It can be body sensations, images. Yeah, first thought, best thought. Good. So thank your aspect. And now turn to your aspect and say, aspect, what goal do you wish to achieve with this frustration for me? And any body sensation, thought, feeling, whatever comes up, best thought, best answer.
It wants me to practice detachment.
Great. So thank your aspect. And now you and your aspect together create a situation in which your aspect's goal is fully realized. Feel the goal of practice detachment fully achieved. Experience it. Step into it. fully be there. And once you're there, let me know.
Yeah.
Great.
I'm here.
Great. Now celebrate that. And from that place, from that goal of practice attachment being fully achieved, ground in it, anchor in it, and then turn to your aspect and say, now that you and I have achieved your goal for me exactly the way you wanted it, what higher goal do you wish for me? What more important and even spiritual?
On this, there is nothing else.
There's nothing else?
Mm-hmm. There's nothing else.
Beautiful. So what would you describe this nothing else like?
Well, it's more relaxing, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Is there nothingness? Is there light? What would you feel that, describe it to me.
It's a freedom.
Freedom. Beautiful. All right. So I want you to step into this freedom. Merge with it. Become this freedom. Slide into it. I want you to know that this freedom that you're feeling is the deepest essence of your being. Become one with it. Have this freedom radiate out from you. Now, what happened to the frustration?
I seem to move from a helicopter perspective. It is less, it seems smaller.
What number would you give it on a scale from 1 to 10?
It's insignificant.
Good. All right. So how, knowing that the essence of you is freedom, how would you describe the other goals in the goal chain? How would you describe, how does that affect or change nothing else?
If I'm not connected to external actions, the mind is free, and everything else is free.
Thank you. Beautiful. And how does your essence being freedom, the knowledge of that, how does that affect practice attachment?
Not necessary. We're already free.
Thank you. And how does it affect the goal that we started with, frustration? Does it change it?
Well, yes. The helicopter perspective makes it just another event, like, I don't know.
Beautiful. Now, is there anything in you that opposes the integration of this aspect?
Oh, no, there is none.
Good. Is there anyone else that is involved in this?
No, it's just my perceptions.
Good. Thank you. Now, in the future, do you think that this aspect could come back against your will?
No, I'm going to return to this exercise. This was very cool.
Thank you. Now keep your eyes closed. And I want you to imagine there's this huge ball of white light above your head. With every inhalation, you draw this white light into you. You have it permeate your cells. Consciously bring in the white, divine light. Let it fill you, and especially the part where your aspect was. Once you're ready, open your eyes.
Juliette, that was very cool.
So what are you?
That was very cool. I like that. It raises the consciousness so that you can see things in a smaller perspective. Excellent.
Yeah.
That was very, very, very cool.
What's good about this for others that you've done this process?
It's just simple. It's simple. It's simple. It's not complicated. It's not. It just gives you a helicopter perspective of the events that are happening, but it also reminds you of what's going on internally, because I think we get drawn into processes, events that we are experiencing, and this kind of raises you above them. So that is actually a very good technique, which I am so going to pirate from you, right? So this is actually very cool, which is very, so that's actually a very good technique. For those of you out there in the audience, you guys could probably try to, actually you have a business, don't you? Dark Obsidian.
I do. I have just, yes, I have just acquired that business name because I really liked it. And I'm in the process of doing a website. So that's all a bit new for me. But yeah, I have a business, Dark Obsidian. I do a lot of coaching. So it's relationship and intimacy coaching.
So I have to give the audience some background. When I first met Juliette, my immediate impression was, what the hell? She has a very striking aura. This is why I've nicknamed them Juliette, the goddess. Alex, you're involved. You are involved with the goddess. Okay. I'm just letting you know. He knows. Okay, so let's get on to the BDSM talk. We had started it. So okay, let's deconstruct some myths. Okay.
Let's real quick. So anybody that's on the Facebook platform, you are able to come into the Zoom room where we are going to be taking calls only from the Zoom room. We will be taking questions from the Facebook chat room as well as the Zoom chat room. So everyone that's here right now, if you in the Zoom room, click on the participants button and you'll be able to figure out how to raise your hand, lower your hand, raise your hand, lower your hand. We're going to be doing a bunch of other processes here in a little bit, and we're going to ask you about your interactive. We'd also like anyone that was experiencing the little thing that she was just doing, write down what your experience was. We're trying to be very interactive here, not just for the subject of the taboo matters, but to help people open up to their own forms where they may have never been able to see someone like Juliette right now in her prime doing what it is that she does. So everyone, if you'd like to come into the Zoom room, Robert in the Facebook page is going to post how to get into the Zoom room. Anyone here in the Zoom room, go to your social media networks and post how to come into this Zoom room. Let's max out this Zoom room, everyone. All right, David, go back.
All right, so Juliette, we're going to deconstruct some myths of BDSM. So people generally think that BDSM draws a particular kind of individual because they usually concentrate on the sadism and masochism, but they don't understand that it's a very wide field of experience. So you want to take our audience through the levels and all the variations that they can be exposed to, and not all of it is just sadistic people beating each other up, because that's the perception.
Well, it's funny because when I first started exploring in this is what I thought. I just like, there's people in like funky, weird gear, and they're just, they're dressing up, and they're just humiliating each other, and they're just some mean people, And then I actually I found some conscious kink and some conscious BDSM, and where actually you really have a very strong container. So the first thing that you do when you get together, you say, what do you want, first of all? Can I take you there? Is that within my limits that I want to do? And then what exactly do you want? So you go really nuanced. You have like a whole container saying, do you want any physical touch? Do you want physical touch anywhere? Can it be genital touch? Can it be penetration? Can it not be? How hard do you want? Do you want flogging? Do you want spanking? Do you want paddles?
Do you want to be tied up?
Do you want to be tied up? Yes. And the whole thing, it's like, right, you want your blindfolds. You're too far away. I can't talk to you.
Go ahead.
We'll see you in Hawaii, David.
Denver, darling. Yeah. So, there's all these things. So it's really a lot about BDSM. If you do it consciously, is communication. Mm-hmm. Like this is what I really like. So first of all, it's like exposing what you want. So it's scary a little bit, right? It's like, oh, this is what I'd really like to do with this scene. And then
you got to confront your shadow.
Right? Absolutely.
If you've never done inner shadow work, this is one of those scenarios where the shadow, it might reveal how much it really runs you subtly.
Absolutely.
Very much
like
so.
People want to be tied up or want to be flogged or want to be tickled until it hurts or whatever the kink factor is going.
Yeah, that's absolutely it. And it's also, how can I surrender to feeling all of that and to allowing my body and to allow myself to get my head out of the way and to allow myself to feel this and to not completely like get stuck and thinking, oh my God, this is terrible, this is bad, and this is not how I'm supposed to look or how I'm supposed to feel. But how can you get yourself out of that? How can you get out of the way?
And once you have that open communication, anything is possible. And so many relationships fail at that. But in this scenario, it has to start right away. Otherwise, you're never going to go to push the envelope.
That's correct.
And here's the other thing that there are two things I would like to jump in here on. For the audience who's seeing Alex and Juliette, you see a loving couple. You don't see like freaks, do you? You see a loving, stable couple. Okay. So that would, just your presence here already deconstructs the myth that this is for freaks and weirdos and stuff like that. The other thing that I would like to say to the audience members who are not into kink, who don't believe in it, and it's coming off to the point that Andrew has just said, would you rather, right, have somebody experience their fantasies and practice their shadow work in the privacy of their own home with a loving partner? Or would you rather have them in the basement with an AR-15, stroking it, thinking, this rifle is my penis, I must procreate? Think about that very carefully.
And
that's not a choice.
When people are in the shadow, they will, we all have this, we have these polarities. We have masculine, feminine, we have dark, light, we have dominant, submissive. Where we want to surrender. Often women have kind of like rape fantasies, but we don't want to be raped, but we want to be ravished. We want to be ravished with love.
Yeah, where the intensity of your partner, where the intensity of desire is so much that it cannot be held back. This I understand.
I would love to be ravished, but the shadow side is that it goes into rape fantasies. And you're just like, and then, maybe the men actually want to enact on it. And you just think, wow, if you can actually just bring this in the open, saying, I want to be ravished, and this is actually one of my fantasies, then you can reenact it with so much love and so much respect for your partner that all of a sudden all the shadow things come out, and it's out in the open, and it's beautiful.
I think for a large amount, BDSM has achieved a bad name. I think because of porn, I guess, yeah. Porn is very, it doesn't instruct people in the correct way. Alex, you about to say something?
I just wanted to say what goes along with that, though, which is really important, and I think it's fundamental, actually, to this practice, is the ability for both partners in the intensity of their communication to hold space for each other and to make each other feel really safe. Because if you're going to surrender to all of those sometimes quite subdued feelings or subdued desires or something like that, and you're going to let them come out, they've got to come out in a safe space, and where they're not going to be judged, they're going to be taken care of, and in that surrender, there's all kinds of other sort of biochemical things going on. So in the context of BDSM play, particularly for someone who is submissive, and particularly in the context of the psychological or the impact play, or even the tying up, even the shibari work, what you're going to get is a lot of hormones. You're going to get endorphins, you're going to get a little oxytocin, you're going to get a lot of dopamine, and that's going to send you somewhere, right? And
subspace. You're talking about subspace.
I'm talking about subspace.
But which is why it's also really important to have that container, to have your yes and no, because in that moment you don't know. You're just like, oh, give me more.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And you're right, but you're absolutely right. And what that means is that you're going to have you have a responsibility to whoever you're with to make sure that they feel safe. Otherwise, two things will happen. Either they will disappear off into subspace and come back into the real world, and there's nothing there for them, and that's going to be a really bad scene for them for a week coming out of that situation. Emotionally distraught's too strong a word, but that's certainly how they will feel, because there's a lot of stuff going on, mostly biochemical, right? And the other thing is they're not going to feel very comfortable about being around you a long time. So
there is that. I think a lot of people would have liked to have this introduced into their relationships. On a previous show, about 2 shows back, we had a lady who called in, and she's a regular caller to the show, and she was saying that she had a bit of a discussion with her husband where she asked him, she wanted to be dominated more. And this is after years and years. So she lived a life without that aspect of their sexual relationship in there. Okay, so she had to finally come out and say it. I would like to be dominated more by you. What advice do you have for audience members who are in relationships, either long-term or have hidden desires, like somebody I'm not supposed to out anymore, who's writing in the chat right now? Not that I'm mentioning any names or anything, right? What advice do you have for our audience members in terms of communicating to their partners that I want this? There are a lot of women out there that it doesn't register to them, the want, the desire. They feel not wanted. And BDSM and just the BDSM play can make you feel very wanted. So how do they communicate, first of all, and how does this kind of play increase desire?
Great question. So when I have clients, I would actually get them to talk first. And I would get them to do a diet, what we call a diet. So it's say, listen, 20 minutes, and I want you to just ask one question. And for me, it would be one of the ones I would say, tell me how you want to touch me, or tell me how I want to be. Tell me how you want to be touched. Sorry, that came out difficult. So tell me how you want to be touched. Mm-hmm. And you go for 20 minutes. So why don't we just demonstrate it, David?
Absolutely.
All right.
Tell me.
All right. So,
real quick, we want everyone in the audience to participate. If you're in the Zoom room here, go ahead in the Zoom chat room, and as Juliette goes through the experience, type into the chat room what you guys are experiencing and going through.
Excellent. I'm ready, Juliette.
all right. So if you've understood, I will ask you, tell me how you want to be touched. If I understand your answer, I'll say thank you.
Mm-hmm.
If I didn't hear it, I'll say again. If you go on and on and on, I'll say summarize that. And if I don't understand, I'll say clarify that. Okay, so it's really a communication where you can open your heart, and it's not a conversation. Okay.
Oh, I gotta love you, Juliette. I'm outing myself
There you go.
on international broadcast.
Excellent.
Good.
All right, David. I want your full attention.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me how you want to be touched.
It varies on a day. On some days, I like to be touched energetically. But if I hadn't seen someone I'm in love with or for a long time, then I want to be grabbed and squeezed and held over long periods of time.
Thank you. Now, this could either work, I continue asking you,
Mm-hmm.
or you ask me.
Mm-hmm.
Will it be more interesting if you ask me too?
Yes.
For the viewers? Okay.
Goddess, tell me how you would like to be touched.
I want Alex to hold me from behind, to stand behind me. Slowly put his hands on my shoulders. And hold me there and put pressure.
Thank you. Now, that was a dyad for those audience members who are looking. I want you guys to practice dyads with your partners. That way, the communication process is clean, it's clear, you know what each other wants. And yeah, there is no judgment in a dyad, no judgment.
And I would actually say really put a timer on for 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Going with the same question. You don't actually need to do touch. I would say in a dyad, don't touch yet, but really be clear what you want. And then there's no judgment. And then after the dyad finishes, you can then, you kind of know how your partner wants to be touched.
Mm-hmm. And this is a communication process which there are no masks in this communication process. They're just souls speaking to each other and asking for what you want. Okay, so I really appreciate this process. I practice it with everybody. I would practice that with a teddy bear if I could. Right. So it gives you an insight into what your partner wants, and it allows the freedom and the communication to be genuine, because a lot of people in relationships do not practice genuine communication. Okay.
We all think that our partner knows exactly what we're thinking, so we don't ask for what we want, or we're like, oh, and then when he or she doesn't do it right, we kind of get angry. It's like,
always stop doing.
I have a question that kind of lines up to where you guys are going through this. This one is from Christina Popescu. I have a question about, out of your experiences, when is the connection between addictions and sexuality? What is that? Where is the connection between addictions and sexuality? Can you give your perspective between the two?
I think people can definitely get addicted to sex, and they can also get addicted to porn. And I think any addiction often is a numbing, a trying to numb the sensations, the feelings, the emotions coming through our body. And, you know, it can be sugar, it can be alcohol, it can be sex, it can be coffee, shopping, gaming, all of those. And where can you actually find the moment that it starts getting really uncomfortable, and then naming it?
In that name it to claim it moment is where you can gain power over something that has power over you.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Completely.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And when you're in that empowered space, it is more freeing than many of your other previous sexual experiences, because they've all been muted by that lack of naming it to claim it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this is why when I work with people, I also say, please, you know, no alcohol, no drugs, anything, but really you just bring your own high. You know, you then can learn how high you can go in your body, and that you don't need any outside stimulus.
Which reminds me, because we alluded to it earlier on, sex can be more freeing and you can get a lot higher than any drug that you could imagine. Okay.
Incredible.
We want to talk about subspace, because there are a lot of women in the chat who may have problems having an orgasm, and this is because they have not communicated the right triggers to their partner. Sex should be an exploration of each other, right? So when I see people in my office in dead-ended relationships, and I say dead-ended relationship, there is no spark anymore. There's no desire or anything like that. And part of me thinks, is this a laziness? Because the gamut of sexual possibilities is so vast that you shouldn't run out of ideas. You theoretically should not run out of ideas.
I don't think you even need to run out of ideas, but if you're really honest with what kind of touch you like, and if you communicate that with your partner, you can set up date nights, you can do different things. I also don't feel that orgasm is the goal. And very often people think that climax. For me, orgasm is a state that you're in. It's like the chi running through your body. You can always be fully alive and flowing. And that is kind of like, that for me is orgasm. The moment that you go over is climax.
Understood. That's actually a very good point you've just made there. We want to talk about that, but I just need to out somebody here. Our moderator, Jen, is in there. Good sex equals good mood. Jen, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
This is our moderator from the Philippines, and we were having a discussion earlier on because Jen apparently knows a lot more than we do. We're amateurs.
Oh, no. I'm just kidding.
So that's actually a good point. Andrew and Alex and Juliette, this concept of orgasm is the goal. We want to try to describe to people that sex is the journey, not the destination that counts. Because a lot of people chase this destination and forget about everything in between. A lot of people who live in their sexual profile, in the erotic blueprint, the sexual blueprint, they chase the orgasm. It's like, drop your pants, let's get to it, let's come.
Oh yeah, they want the sexual, definitely in the erotic blueprint. They want to kiss, they want to make out, but they want sex. If it doesn't involve penetration and climax, then it's not interesting for them.
All too often, the goal is like a football game where they're going to get in a goal and all of a sudden they're running around with their shirt off going, goalie! So like the Mexican soccer things. It isn't that.
I love that. That's great.
It isn't. Oh, it's not goalie! Rah! Unfortunately.
Were you watching me last night?
Wonderful. Now, we have another question. How do you approach being sexually shut down? This is a lady from Glenda Ann. I've been shut down sexually celibate for a long time. My mind accepts that I'm a sexual person, but past traumas make it hard for me to approach that state of being.
Mm-hmm.
Completely get it. So I would I would take an approach from lots of different sides, but I think definitely working with someone on the traumas while you're also trying to first releasing those, and then because that's a lot of stuck energy in your body, and then at the same time also seeing what do you like, what brings you pleasure. Is it breath? Is it slowing down your breath? Is it closing your eyes and just rolling your head slowly? Where can you feel pleasure in your body?
Mm-hmm.
And really to take it slowly. And it might be as silly as stroking your chin or your finger, and then kind of like experimenting with it. What kind of touch do I like? Do I like a little bit of nails? Do I like it really soft? Do I like it more massaging? Do I want pressure and just pushing down? And it's like a detective game, It's like everything is information.
Meanwhile, I feel the energy of haughtiness raising in our audience members from just that. So I suppose my next question is, what about masturbation? The way a woman learns her body and what she likes is probably by pleasuring herself, first of all. You have any advice for our audience, as the women and the men?
I would say people that are sexual already and are feeling comfortable in self-stimulation, absolutely go for it and try with coconut oil, also depending on your mood, make your bedroom or where are you going to do this? Put some music on, put some candles on. Maybe that doesn't turn you on. Maybe you want to, have it bright lights, but really see what you like. And then I would say just take it slowly and involve breath in it. And really, when you know what turns yourself on and how to pleasure yourself, then it is so much easier to then teach your lover what you want. I mean, we watched David from the beginning, right? I mean, he's very adept, but I would say, can you go a little bit slower? Can you go a bit to the left? Or, hey, wait a minute, just slow down, hold still there. And it was just so refreshing that we could have this conversation.
Or even get on with it.
Oh yes, go. But if I hadn't really known what my body needs and what I need at that moment, which often you don't know, but until you actually find that out for yourself, you can't communicate it to anyone else. So this was just beautiful to be able to do that.
It's also, can I just interject on this about men, because guys, and I've been like this too, guys focus on their genitals, right? There's no doubt about that. And because they're right there, right? And you can't avoid seeing them. Women don't see their genitals, right? Because they're away from their sight line. Guys, it's all there all the time. From the age of about, I don't know, when I first started exploring that element of me, but I was pretty young. But one of the things I've discovered in that time is, much like Juliette was talking about, is to what extent can I slow down a bit with even with things like masturbation, for example, and feel as though, where else am I feeling this? And can I make myself feel something that isn't necessarily focused on my genitals, even though that's where the process is going on? And it reaches back up your whole parasympathetic nervous system, which gives you a more somatic experience. And if you start doing that, and I'm not the world's best at this, but if you start doing that, as Juliette said, you reach a kind of a state rather than an objective, and that makes things also more, I think, for me personally, more satisfying, but there's more energy, and you're better able also to adjust your partner. One of the things men don't do I think is they're not very comfortable at communicating about what they think is pleasurable. They just do it because they've always done it, right, from a very young age. And I think developing that more somatic experience, if they possibly can, which means slowing down, which means much like happened in the process that Juliette did. Where are you feeling this? And yeah, okay, you're feeling it in your genitals, but where else are you feeling it, and why is that good too? That's really important, I think, and has really worked to help me understand both my own sexuality, but also, with Juliette, to understand how we can make it the greater than the sum of our parts, right?
Greater than the sum of our parts. That's classic. Excellent.
Let me chime in real quick about the masturbation. A lot of men at a very young age have a fantasizing issue and will often masturbate improperly and created insensitivity in their phallus over many years. And that's a trauma to the phallus. And then when the fantasy doesn't work right, it becomes skewed in their brain and they're disconnected from their parasympathetic, which then creates a lot of premature ejaculation when they actually get sexually stimulated at an adult life.
Or some erectile dysfunction.
Yeah, or a dysfunction that goes off the hook. Conversely, women's fantasies are vastly different than men. They can get lost into astral sex, where men, they're more engaging the astral sex instead of the woman being open to it. Now, this isn't for everyone, but astral sex is one of those things when you're having intense dream space sexual experiences because of the level of fantastical masturbation you're doing just before you fall asleep every night.
There's another negative aspect. If you are masturbating and you're a man and you're, for want of a better word, dry handing it, you are damaging the nerve centers on that phallus. You are damaging them, and you can have sensitivity problems because no woman is going to hold you as tight as your hand, right? Especially if you're using hand grips every day. No woman is going to hold you as tight as your hand. So what you have is a situation where you have a lot of desensitized men. And I want to give some advice. It's paramedical advice. If you are in this situation, you would actually be developing corns on the skin that actually desensitize you as well. So there are two solutions to this. Get rid of them. And this is going to sound counterintuitive. You might need lime water. Don't try to put lime directly on your phallus, right? You might need lime. You might need lime water to take it off, but you're going to have to stop masturbating for a while. Or if you're going to masturbate, you're going to have to use some sort of lubricant, okay? We've seen a lot of this where you have men that just can't come because they're not used to the slip and slide effect of a woman's vagina because they've been masturbating for so long. So they appear to have a lot of staying power, but it's because I can't feel anything. Yeah. My mind has stimulated me, but I can't feel anything.
And that's a problem, right?
But getting back, you need to also communicate that with your partner and say, I can't feel anything. So it's her fault.
But so often, we're so caught up in fantasy world. So we either use porn to get off, or, then we kind of like become numb to that. So we need more and more and more and more to come. To actually really enjoy ourselves. So it's like the people having sex, and all of a sudden the woman's like, oh, let's make it exciting and let's put a fireman's hat on you, and and for a few weeks it's like really exciting, and we're going and we're going and we're going, and then sensation goes down, and she's like, oh, what about you wear the top. So he wears the top, and and then sensation off, and it's great again for a few weeks. And all of a sudden, he has to wear a whole fireman's outfit for her to get off.
With a hose.
So what I teach people is actually to strip all of that back and to bring it back to pure sensation. And communication is key at that. And it's like, oh, slower, slow down even more. And really see, where do you feel that?
And that journey into sensuality and sensual touch and sensual voice is something that is lost as an art. And Juliette, you have that art nailed down.
Yeah.
Nailed down.
She certainly does.
Okay? And anyone can follow that art of the self and get yourself into that alluring, interacting, joyful, enthusiastic, connective, empathic voice that can do what? Stimulate.
Mm-hmm.
It's not mystical. It's practiced art.
Okay, so we want to look at a few different kinds of individuals in terms of the sexual profiles. So we have the intellectual sex person. It never works, but they're going to keep going down that line. They will read the Kama Sutra backwards, forwards, up and down. You're right. They will read the Kama Sutra, but the actual performance of sex is a more spiritual thing. I want to say something to the audience here. Whatever experience you've had in sex, you may have think you've reached your pinnacle. The pinnacle is actually reached when you are fully connected with another human being in vulnerability, but also in strength as well. Okay, so we want to say that as well. So if you're the kind of person, okay, I'm going to do a one-night stand here, a one-night stand tomorrow, there's no connection, there's no time to develop trust. When you look at the relationship that you're seeing right now on our Zoom live call-in show, this is something that you should actually aspire to. Openness, trust, and so on. But I actually want to look at that profile that I mentioned earlier, the intellectual sex guy. He knows anatomy, he knows the positions, he knows everything, but experience is nothing. All is but lip wisdom that wants experience. Philip Sidney said that. Discuss.
You want to talk to that? I saw you raising your hand.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I think you're absolutely right, and I think, I mean, I've always been intellectually curious about pretty much everything. So that was just an element of things, and so but one of the things I found was it became a substitute for the experience, and so what that was about was, in part at least, another means to not feel, right? And because it's feeling is kind of dangerous, and has the potential to be quite it has the potential to be fantastic, but it has the potential on the other side of that to be I'm not sure what the word is perhaps, but it can be hurtful. It can open you to some hurt, but it's something. It's the difference between facts and truth, right? So the intellectual guy knows a lot of facts, but doesn't know any truth, and that applies in more or less everything in the walk of life that we've chosen. But in our sexual encounters, that's certainly the most true thing I know. So there are circumstances where that Jules and I, we don't do anything particularly esoteric sexually. We do just something, we keep it, as you said, very simple, and just feel right into the depths of whatever is going on, and that's where truth lies. And it was an important realization of that for me, as I came around to that idea, going, well, this is great. I know a lot of stuff, but it's not got me really anywhere. So you're absolutely right, and the value of being able to not discard that because you'll use it, but not to let it get in the way of things is so valuable.
And what about
it's often used as a means to not feel, right? So.
Very good point. And what about the spiritual person? I'm so spiritual. We are going to have sex, and I'm not going to touch you.
Oh yes, the energetic sex. Well, hey,
yes.
But it's also
how far does that go?
You can actually have energetic sex, and you can actually send each other energetic like sex across the room.
Yeah, we never do that.
No, we never.
I kind of say it goes until the balls are blue.
And it definitely has its place. I think that the difficulty becomes in when one way is only the right way.
That's zealotry.
Sorry?
That's zealotry when one way is the only
right? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's just like, well, this is right for some people, this is right for it. And a mixture of it all could be yours for the taking.
Mm-hmm. No, when it comes spiritual. Real quick, when it comes to that energetic sex, everyone should experience it once. So you know what it is. So it's in your toolbox of kink.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's fantastic. For me, that's one of the more important parts of it for me.
I mean, you took me super high last Sunday. I mean, he barely touched me and I was out there.
Yeah, I had to shout at her to bring her back.
Shouted and lie on me, ground me to get me back. And I was like, whoa, where did I go?
But it's interesting, Dave, your point about the spiritual element too, that's equally as sometimes where you have someone who has a deeply spiritual persona and thinks very much about that part of their lives, and in exactly the same way as the one who is intellectual. Can also get in the way.
The reason why I brought that up is because we have empaths that usually call in. So sex for an empath assumes a different perspective. Okay. Now these people are sensitive to what's happening with you. So what's happening with you needs to be under control. And if you know that you're dating an empath, you need to be super vigilant that when you come to bed with this person, or the kitchen table, it doesn't really matter. When you come to bed with this person, your thought patterns are clean, because and your intent is clear and crystal. And the reason why I say that is because we have empaths and they are particularly sensitive to other people's energy, but that quality can either work really well for them in a sexual relationship or really, really horribly.
Oh, yeah, or against them, absolutely. There's this too much mind chatter that you're picking up, which isn't yours, and it feels like yours in your body. And you're like, why am I feeling like this? Why is this not okay?
In a situation where you have what is the name of the romantic novels? Was it Mills and Boons? What is the
Mills and Boon? Harlequin.
Harlequin, correct. Right. Where you see the covers with this woman and she's holding the reins of a horse and the man is behind her, and it's like, you see, for an empath, that's heaven. Okay. But if you're in a dark, seedy bar or pub, sorry, not bar, right? If you're a dark, seedy pub and you are getting the energy signatures from different people who are thinking, this is a good replacement for my hand, I think I will have to use that. Okay. If you are in these kinds of environments, that's like hell to a woman who's an empath or a man who's an empath. Okay. So what would be your advice for those people who are dating highly sensitive people, sensitive to energy and so on?
I would really check in with themselves that they're being clear conduit, and that there are no thoughts interrupting, and really have pure attention on the other person. It's all about your pure attention. So that, we all have distracting things that come in. And actually also, to be honest, when things come in, when you start thinking things, and just say, hey, this just came up. It isn't you. It's like this thought just came and it's just passed now again. I just wanted to be honest, and I felt this.
I found a way to deal with empaths personally, not necessarily in a relationship, is to verbalize everything that is on my mind.
Yeah.
Just verbalize it. Okay. There's a very interesting question in the chat. I want to just pick it up. Is it unhealthy to fantasize about others while having sex with your partners? Jed says, it is, in my opinion. Jed. Okay, let's not. I'm not going to even go there. You know, I'm going to ask you something later, Jen. But anyway, so is it unhealthy to fantasize about others while having sex with your partner? Let's hear it.
I think, honestly, how many people have fantasized about having sex with someone else? You know, when you're having sex with your partner, sometimes a little image or a thought or something just comes in. You know, how you can feel guilty about it is by trying to suppress it.
Because it makes it come. Yeah, it gives it power.
Possibly even sharing it. I mean, it's up to you if you want to share it. If you want to share it, and then you feel comfortable enough with your partner to share it, and then say, hey, this thought just came up that, you know, you and I are together in a club and another woman is coming in, and then, you know, she's going to touch your hair and I'm stroking her butt. You know, all of a sudden it becomes really hot. And both of you can really get off on that fantasy.
I think the other thing is that, I mean, there's two things that occur to me about this. The first one is that 9 out of 10 of people have thought about someone else, and the other person, they're a liar, right? So you know, and there's a number of things that can happen about it. You can feel really guilty and all that kind of stuff. And I think Juliette's advice is really interesting. But I recognize that it can be also difficult to give voice to that because you don't know what someone's going to say. The second thing is that it seems to me not much different from, in a sense, a difference is only in degree, not kind. When, for example, I might be walking along the street with Juliette and I observe someone who's pretty and I might think, gosh, she's really beautiful or sexy or whatever. And there's nothing. The guilt that arrives about that is that we have this peculiar idea that we might be in a monogamous relationship, but we feel guilty that we feel some kind of attraction, whether it's a sexual attraction in a fantasy context or even an observational attraction, like when you pass someone on the street, and all of it is fleeting, right? And what isn't fleeting is the guilt you feel about it, right? So the guilt is way in excess, out of proportion, often to the actual event. And there's nothing going on, and you'll forget about it in 5 minutes. And, you know, I might have seen someone in the street, or Julia might have seen someone in the street. 5 minutes later, I won't even remember who they are, right? I'll have just remembered that I saw someone I thought was attractive. And that's kind of how it works also in a context of, if you're sexually fantasizing about someone else, particularly where, then the question is, it seems to me that it's often relatively fleeting. So what's going to happen about that is that you let it go. You observe it, you notice it, you don't have to do anything about it particularly, you just let it go. And the worst part happens is when you feel guilty about it. And then of course the danger is if taking Jules' advice, which I think is really good, of bringing it up with someone, you know, the danger is that person's going to feel offended or somehow make you feel guilty about that. And that's really tricky ground, isn't it? But I go back to my point, you know, 9 out of 10 have had this before and the other one's a liar. So, you know, so that, you know, that if you're in a relationship where communication is a key and important element, which of course it should be, then you can bring this up there are ways of bringing this up without endangering anything. There's no judgment. You just say,
tell me one fantasy you've had.
Yeah.
I wonder who she's directing that question at. Okay, so let's
David, let's take our break now. So
okay, sure.
Take a 10-minute break, everyone. So go refill your water bottles. Go and get yourself ready for questions. When we come back, we're going to delve deeper into what we got, and then we're going to take some callers. All right, everyone. We'll be back in about 10 minutes.
Okay.
Sure.
Hello, my name is Chris Ray Chappell, and I'm going to be teaching in Aniki, Barbados from the 11th of October for 3 days, an intensive on Hunyuan primordial Qigong. This is a classical energy work set, which is primarily meant to open up all of the energy pathways of the body and to actually get you into your essence. Now, the idea of this set is it's going to open every single joint, muscle, every bit of connective tissue, the sinews, the organs, the spine, access the blood flow to the brain, creating a homeostasis. Now, Qigongs classically are meant for either health, power development and strength, and often for meditation. So the application of this set is broad ranging. So I'd like to welcome you there. Hope you can make it for the 3 days. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to enjoy teaching it and sharing what I have and to see who turns up. So I'd like to see you there. Thanks very much. Bye.
Baby steps for adults, drug abuse. What is drug addiction? Am I an addict? Who does drug addiction really harm? They can hurt your sense of judgment, decision-making, memory, and ability to learn. They can hurt your loved ones and so many others around you. Drug addiction is a disease which can be cured. Our Baby Steps program can provide the information you and your family need to overcome this illness. Online access to professionals working in the field of addiction, webinars and group counseling for those battling this addiction, full instruction to help you first understand this disease and how to cope with it. Join us today. We're here to help. Baby steps for adults, codependency. I can't live with or without you. I just want to look good for you. I would do anything for you. All popular words to famous songs. But guess what? They all indicate someone in a codependent relationship. Codependency is an addiction to another human being. You will see a strong relationship between codependency and negative physical side effects, which can manifest in violence towards your spouse or partner. If you're in a codependent relationship, you may need help. Join us today and free yourself from this addiction. Baby steps for adults, sexual abuse. Sexual abuse is a real problem in our societies. Every year, thousands of children are abused. These children constitute the most vulnerable members of our society. However, sexual abuse is also a real problem among our adult population. It can be violent and unwanted within family groups, as well as extreme harassment at the workplace. We can help. With online access to trained professionals working with victims of abuse and sexual assault, webinars and group counseling for those suffering from the trauma and struggling to make sense of their lives, full instruction to help you overcome the trauma and how to detect and assist other victims. Protect yourself and your loved ones. Join us today. Baby steps for adults, communication. Hey there. Are you reading this? Do you understand me? Oh, great. Then we're communicating. So what is good communication? Expressing exactly how you feel. Being personal and one-on-one. A simple touch or gesture of love. And what is poor communication? Screaming and shouting. Belittling others. Violence or verbal abuse. Would you like to learn to be an effective communicator? Join us today. Oh, bye now.
Welcome back, everyone. As we are going to continue our in-depth conversation, we've had some very special conversations, and we're going to delve even deeper now. I want to add one thing on the empathic person. Generally, a woman who's been an empath for a long time, they lose themselves to themselves and discover a narcissistic lover. And therefore, they're trapped in this narcissistic empath never-ending cycle. Juliette, what do you recommend for those women who are very empathic and caught in that narcissistic relationship?
I would really learn how to ground myself, first and all. And because we give and then take other people's thoughts on and feelings. And it's really where you learn to feel what's yours and what's not yours. So grounding is something really important. It's like taking time in nature, sticking your feet in the ground, hugging trees, just thinking of your feet. You have zippers in your feet, you unzip them, and you have the energy drain into the earth. And that is something that often helps a lot. And also it's where you discover your own voice, where you discover your no. It's like, do I really like that? Do I want that? And often we'll say no, and we make up an excuse, right? No, but because of this and that, or no, this. But it's actually the realness of being able to say no just because it doesn't feel good. Doesn't need any explanation. And once you start practicing that and really practicing what is a yes and what's a no in your body, where do you feel that in your body? That your body will start giving you a lot of clues and will actually have you help, will further you in this journey, because it's a journey. It's, Rome's not built in 2 days. It will take a bit of time.
Actually, I want to jump in here because I read the chat during the break. There's a lady talking about a shutdown if you're not used to certain kinds of connection, and if you have a lot of sexual trauma or trauma generally speaking, and you encounter people with a shutdown. And it's a bit of a pity. During the break, I also sent an invite to a mutual friend of Juliette and myself. She's in here with us, but I don't think she's going to be speaking. I don't know whether she's going to be speaking. We want to talk about something called dorsal vagal shutdown. Okay? The reason why we're talking about it is because I experienced it apparently a few weeks ago. Okay? It's a neurological process. And a mutual friend of ours acquainted me with this process. So I can't remember who the lady was in the chat. If you guys are reading the chat, I'm not quite sure who it is. That is actually a neurological process been made to understand. You know it by when you learn massage therapy or body work, but experiencing it is something totally different. Okay? And that may have a number of, this may be for a number of reasons, especially when you have traumas that are early childhood traumas, and you're trying to experience a certain level of connection, the body will shut you down completely. Okay, which is probably why we're having this kind of discussion. A lot of you who have lovers that shut down. So for someone like me, I was meditating since I was 13 years old. My mind naturally, and it was TM meditation, my mind naturally wants to float. Grounding, which is what you came in speaking about, grounding is very important in certain cases because that can only help that dorsal vagal shut down. I've come to experience. So if you guys have lovers who fall asleep immediately after sex, as a shutdown reflex, you might want to consider that they need some sort of trauma release. No, Juliette, we're not doing my trauma release on international. on international broadcast, but there is that trigger, and if you see it, please be a little bit mindful that reflex is actually trying to avoid something. And I really wish our mutual friend would speak about it. We'll see a little bit later on if she bites, okay? But the next question. We're talking the spiritual person. We've covered the mental, intellectual person. We've covered the spiritual person. We've covered the person who is very body-centered. Let's cover the shapeshifter. That shapeshifter wants everything. They want all different kinds of experiences. Okay? If you are married to a shapeshifter or dating one, how do you handle that? I want it all. Is the shapeshifter.
Yes. And there's also, if they don't get it all, it's like, this is boring. It's like, is this all there is? Because as a shapeshifter, I mean, I'm a shapeshifter. Alex is a shapeshifter. This is what.
And y'all are both doms. Y'all are both, okay, so y'all are both doms and y'all are both shapeshifters. If you are.
Can you explain shapeshifting a little bit more instead of just the basic what we got here?
Absolutely. So a shapeshifter likes energetic sex, likes sensual sex, likes sexual, and likes kink. And pretty much all the same percentages, more or less. So, you know, so their way into sex could be any of them. Yeah, I start like funning him, and that's like, ooh, yeah, well, we're both dumb, so that might not do it at this moment, but that would be their way in. Or I touch his genitals, and he's like, oh yeah, let's go. While for one of the other ones, that is not their way into sex. Shapeshifter also doesn't really know what is theirs. So it's a bit like the empath. It's like, oh, you know, you're constantly pleasing your partner. If your partner is, say, mostly sexual, yeah, or is mostly sensual, you put on beautiful music, you'll dance a lot, you'll have candles, this, that. And as a shapeshifter, that's all okay, but there's always that nagging part. It's like, oh, where am I not getting fed? What other bits of me are there, but are not getting fed, are not being met?
How does a shapeshifter figure out what they want?
I don't think you figure it out. I just think you wake up and go, okay, today I'd like a little of this. And it can vary very quickly.
Oh my God, all the time.
So it really is about understanding sensual, sexual mood in yourself, what you want with your partner, and how the partner projects back to you in a form of co-creation. We'll just use that word, in which you can feed not a fantasy, but a reality-based action.
That's a really good word. And it's funny that Juliette said, as she pulled my hair or whatever she was doing, that might not be my gateway at any given moment. But the weird thing is, that might be her gateway, right? So I might just, what's our phrase? Be a good sport about it. You know, I might just surrender in that moment because that's what she needs in that moment. And what I know with us is that because we feed each other, at a given moment, she might be taking on something that's her gateway, and I'll let that work because that will deliver us into the flow of what we're going to co-create. I think that's a really good word.
So what about a shapeshifter that has a lot of trauma? What are some of the recommendations that you can have?
I, again, would go through a lot of trauma release. I mean, any trauma, anything that's stuck, any thought that keeps recirculating in your mind, that keeps resending itself. So, you know, resentment is the resending of an image or a thought or an emotion in your mind. Get rid of it. You know, do some trauma release, do some emotional release. There are lots of different ways of doing it. I think the ones that I'm doing is very quick and it's very lasting, but it's not the only way. Do some tapping, do some EFT, you know, go into your shadow and see what does it want? Like Brene Brown says, you know, when you take things out of the shadow, that's it. You know, you bring them to the light. There's no shame there anymore. There's no guilt. You don't feel that, oh, I am wrong or I am terrible. Once you start taking that out of the shadow, it's you know, you're normal. You realize that all this stuff that you've been hiding for years is actually okay. There are other people. There are people that can say, hey, me too. I feel that.
Well put.
Well, probably not me too, but sorry. But not me too. But anyway,
we had to go there.
Yes, we had to go there. Okay, so Before we go to some callers, I just wanted to ask a question. You two are both DOMs. Y'all are both shapeshifters. The possibilities must be endless for you guys. Please educate the audience on what to do when dating or being married to a shapeshifter, because that's going to be a lot of work. So tell me.
It doesn't actually need to be a lot of work, but I think one of the things that really was impactful is where we make sure that we have one day a week where we actually have kind of like date night, dates, morning, whatever, where we spend an hour and a half, 2 hours on each other without phones, without other distractions.
Are we on date night? I just really need to know this.
Yeah, you guys, we have to cook somewhere else.
So where we actually spend time with each other and pure attention on the other. Mm-hmm. And then, questions like, do a diet like that? And then also something like I would say, this is what I love about you. And this is what I'm grateful for. And I'll say something, I'm so grateful for your presence and how you hold me. I've just lost my mother. She committed euthanasia 2 months ago. And before that, it was my father who passed away in January, and my sister 2 years ago. So, the time that I've known Alex, he's really been there, and he's been super grounding. And he's taken me through all my, ups and downs and snot flying and crying and then laughing and being happy again. But I've gone through all of that with you. And you've actually just been there for me. You've grounded me. You were able to see all of it. So I would take people through, I would start like that. And that then opens up the heart and then opens up the body. And all of a sudden you start feeling more sensation in your body. And then maybe just do a few exercises in relaxing and like saying, hey, where do you feel pleasure? We close our eyes. I'll take me and him through a 2-minute meditation of feeling the energy everywhere, doing some sort of breath work. And then we see where it goes from there.
Can I interject here? I'm going to be a little bit provocative here and suggest that that I think somewhere or another we started out life as all of us as shapeshifters, and we developed into something because of all kinds of things, whether it's our social conditioning, whether it's our religious upbringing, whether it's the trauma, some of the trauma we've had. And I think we sort of, by developing one of the blueprints that we've talked about this evening, we've found our way into that, and that's been pretty safe, actually. And
it's been comforting.
Yeah. And it means that, so in a way, I think that was one of the best bit of advice to someone who is in that situation that you describe is really develop a very positive and very strong sense of being open and willing to try things, and not just try things in a kind of, well, let's do this, we haven't done this for a long time, but just to be open to being with someone in that circumstances and allow things to happen to you, or allow things to happen, because if you're holding each other in a kind of very safe sort of container, then anything can happen, and it's all going to be good. So this takes a lot of trust, and I'm not suggesting it's going to be easy, but the rewards are great. Right. So.
Absolutely. And you know what I'm looking at? I'm looking at two people who are making it work. A lot of people in the audience are looking at you. You guys have been a real inspiration to people, huh? I want you to know that you're inspiring me, because I want some of what you guys have. And I bet everyone in the audience wants some of that as well. That came out the wrong way. Would like a relationship. Would like a relationship of trust, of fun, of happiness. And I hope one day that I find that as well. So you guys, we really want to thank you for inspiring us, but we're going to go to some callers now. Jen, you want to spin?
before we go to the callers, if you are on Facebook, you are on YouTube, you are on Twitch, you are on Periscope, you are on the webpage. If you want to be selected as a caller, you must come to the Zoom room. Our different people will post all the different ways to get it. You can come to Zoom and enter the chat features. Please use a headset if you are in a noisy environment. So we are going to be taking callers, and please have your headset ready. So we are going to, excuse me 1 second here. I've flubbed my own entrance here. Be taking callers, but raise your hand. That's clicked on the participants, the 3 dots, and click raise your hand if you want to be selected as a caller. We have a lot of people from Kali to Yazima to Teresa, Strawberry, Shauna, Sarkis, Ryan, Paola, Oksana, Eliza, Lestat, Know That Health, Kendra, K, Kali Ray, K, Joyce, Dawn's iPad, Dave, Danny Sosa, Christine, all you people, go ahead and raise your hand if you want to be selected as a caller. All right, Jen, go ahead and spin that wheel of callers and see who shows up.
Okay, among the participants who raised their hand, let's have Amalia. You are now... Oh, wait. Are you... does your audio is connected?
Amalia, you there?
I can't seem to unmute her.
I don't think she has a audio plugged in right.
Yes, please connect your audio so we can unmute you. Okay, let's have Glenda Ann Barnes instead.
Glenda, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Great. Where are you calling from today, Glenda?
New Zealand.
New Zealand. Can you come a little closer to your microphone there?
Yes. Is this better?
Yeah, great. So what did you think of the conversation we've had so far?
Oh, it's just been exactly what I needed to hear. It's empowering and it's giving hope, and sort of a lot of us have had tough journeys, but also amazing journeys, sexual journeys, and mine's been a real mixed bag. And I know that I am deeply interested in it as a topic, but have just gone through a whole lot of stuff, and so I want to get to the good stuff. I haven't currently got a partner, so that doesn't help, but I know someone who's coming one day.
Great.
What is coming one day? Oh my God.
I thought it was just
let's just say.
So what questions did you want to ask our panel here?
I guess perhaps I've read a few books, like what's his name, Mantak Chia, talking about sacred sexuality. Are you guys schooled in that? What are your views on that? Do you sort of try and practice it, or do you just or is it more in the mind body connection for you? Like, what's the relationship between that and kink?
Okay, I think I want to jump in on this really early. I think all sexuality is sacred in some way. It doesn't matter what it is. Not all versions of sacredness, because when you think of sacredness, it's usually couched in this sort of ethereal environment, right? If you have raw, untamed sex in a field somewhere with someone you love, is it different from candles and incense in a temple in Tibet? There's not much difference between the two.
Yeah.
What is important is that the souls connect. So that's the sacred part. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of sexuality has been damaging for some people. Rape is an example. When there's a violation from one person to the other, it damages the individual. The soul cries as a result of it. And it's not the soul of the person who's being offended. That person's soul cries as well. But the offender's soul is also damaged in that act. Okay. So sacred sexuality, for me, It is finding someone you can be open with, because you grow in sexuality. Okay? A lot of people think, oh, sexuality is a distraction to the spiritual. But I think you can see it's the ready access to what is spiritual in most people. Okay? I may not be able to teach you 1,000 different breathing techniques, right? I may not be able to do that. I may not be able to teach you different kinds of meditation systems, but everybody can have sex in some way, shape, or form or the other, or connect to the other. Okay? So
and this is what I actually found, that those systems, those breathing systems, just practicing them by myself were actually too hard, too distracting, and I was better just being more organic.
Yes, because let me tell you a little bit of a fact. For those of us who don't know fire breathing, I could try to teach you guys fire breathing right here, or I could just have you have sex and the fire breathing is absolutely natural. It's absolutely, because there's only one way you're going to climax, and that's through the fire breath. Okay, there's only one way. So, sexuality is everyone's gateway. Okay, there's a saying in Japan: the road is clear in front of you. Why do you throw rocks in it? Okay, don't complicate something that is as simple and natural as meeting with another person. But I'll defer to the panel. Juliette, Andrew, Alex, anybody.
Real quick, when's the last time you've been in an intimate relationship? How long?
Oh, this is embarrassing. It's been 6 years.
6 years. I don't want to pass on.
And that's intentional. Yeah.
Kia ora, Glenda.
Kia ora. Nice to hear another Kiwi.
Wow.
Although you've been away for a wee while.
I've been away for a long time. Yeah.
Yes, you have. So, Glenda, I would say for me, the sacredness comes in with the intention that I set for myself and for my partner, and what it is that I want to get out of that sexual act or that intimate act. And then very much, I mean, I focus very much on opening my heart and opening all my chakras and just opening all of myself. And then sometimes we can breathe or not. We've done the fire breathing. We've done all kinds of sacred sexuality things and letting go and calling in all kinds of stuff. But it really boils down to what your intention is, how you can open up your heart, and how you can be together.
The really interesting thing in that concept is Juliette's absolutely right. Its intention is a key element to all of that. And for me, at least anyway, it's finding a way to not just have an intention. That's pretty, for someone who lives in their head too much, that's a pretty easy thing to do. It's being able to connect that intention to your body and all of the kind of if I was being intellectual about it again, your parasympathetic nervous system. How do you make that projection from your mind a somatic experience for yourself? And,
right.
And bring that all together. And for someone like for whom that's not a normal practice. I've had a background in dance and stuff like that, so that connection with my body was a relatively natural thing. But it's not altogether obvious at any given moment, and takes some work and takes some mindfulness, I suppose, to be able to do that frequently. And it's just a practice.
And kindness as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, one of I think the easiest breathing exercises I would actually invite all of you to do. So close your eyes. Feel the chair under your butt. And then take a breath in. Breathe in. Hold it. Go up a bit more. And then instead of exhaling it really forcefully, just allow it to flow out of you really softly. And then feel, where did you feel that? Did you feel the life force coming through every part of your body? And it's as simple as a breath like that, and continue breathing like that for a few minutes if you'd like. And really feeling, that is what I call orgasm, that feeling of life force running through your body. All your cells being permeated, like juicy with that oxygen and breath. And you could move and put in a little bit of movement. Start feeling where do you start enjoying movement? Are you feeling it in your hips, in your spine, your shoulders? Do you want to stay still? Really feel the pleasure and allow yourself to have that pleasure. Allow yourself to have that joy. You may all open your eyes again.
Welcome back, everybody.
That was so goddamn sexy.
And very simple, right? Really simple. You can do that with yourself. You don't need a lover to do that.
Yeah, I just had this feeling of desire, and that is something that I have been shutting down. It was pretty weak, but it got stronger.
Good.
Beautiful, beautiful.
It definitely got a lot stronger. So,
Fantastic.
yeah.
Right.
And it wasn't for you exactly, but it was just for that. I mean, you're a very sexy woman, but it was.
This is how you do it. Every day, a little bit of pleasure. Where can you find a little bit of pleasure in your life?
Yeah.
And then when that partner manifests himself for you, you'll be able to embrace it all.
Yes, that's right. Yes, indeed.
Thank you, Alex, because I was about to tell Glenda, when that man comes, you know what to do.
Yeah, too dang right.
All right, thank you, Glenda, for calling in.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Jenny,
you
want to go to the next caller?
Okay, thank you, Glenda. So we will try to select Amalia again. She's using another account here. Let's see.
Amalia, are you there?
Amalia, you're unmuted.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Amalia. Talk to us.
Hello, it's so nice to hear you. Such a nice surprise. Wonderful and inspiring show. Today
Where are you calling from, Amalia?
I'm calling from Romania, Eastern Europe.
Oh, wow. We're all over the planet today. Tell me.
Yes.
Amalia, tell us, what are your questions for us today?
Well, I'm very happy. First of all, thank you, Andrew. I'm watching you for 10 years. And I'm going tomorrow to a craniosacral therapy first level class.
Okay,
thank you. I'm on my journey.
Okay. Did you have any questions with regard to our topic today, which is
it
sexuality?
Was inspiring. Yes, very inspiring. I loved the wonderful people here, and also the emotional work done.
Okay.
I'm inspired by the completion process. I thought it was like a completion process met theta healing.
Yes.
But it is a wonderful work to be done on our own.
Did you have any questions for our guest or any of us, the panel?
I practice meditation, and I had a period of time where I stopped being grounded. I was flying high most of the time, but I heard that it is important in our journey. I know that there is a time to fly and there is a time to be grounded, and this is part of our evolution. And when I fly high on my own, fly high on my own resources without stimulants or anything else, I mean, it was a period where I was abstinent for a long period, a long time.
I can
No
totally
sexual
answer
activity.
this. I can absolutely answer your question right now. Okay,
Yes.
I learned to meditate when I was 13 years old. Okay, there should be a disclaimer. Do not teach 13-year-olds meditation.
Yeah.
So I learned to meditate when I was 13 years old. Let me tell you what it does. I learned transcendental meditation. Maharishi Yogi's transcendental meditation was my first initiatic experience into meditation. Experience into
I
meditation.
understand you very well. Yes, I also did that.
Yes, so you know that it makes your mind float very far away from reality.
And I like it there. And you don't want anything else there.
I know.
You have no desires.
From the
right?
time you started speaking, I knew exactly what meditation system. That meditation system does not encourage grounding as a result. Let me tell you my story. Okay, so I went to a retreat recently in British Columbia. The retreat had a lot of processes which involved you encountering trance briefly, but you had to be engaged and grounded. Yeah, that was very difficult for me because I kept floating off into everywhere. Okay, and even when I tried to stay grounded, there was a lady who was at this retreat. She had experience and she had a skill set akin to clairvoyancy, and she sat next to me and she kept pinching me whenever she realized I was floating off. So Natalia, if you ever had this broadcast, thank you, thank you, thank you. With regard to meditation and sexuality, what I had found is that I got involved with someone who was also a meditator. Okay. And we would literally float off together. Okay. And it's nice up there because you will know how people who are involved in mantra yoga talk to each other in a sort of less than verbal sense. But what I found was sexuality with other people couldn't quite cut it because it required grounding, which I didn't have. Understood? So I'm being like, I'm being open with you, right? You want to float off and it will encourage reflex in your body when you have sex. Because if you have an orgasm and you are that kind of meditator, your mind will want to float and be free. And your partner will be wondering, what the hell just happened? You know what I'm talking about.
True.
You know what I'm talking about, don't you? You know what the hell just happened? You were here and then you're not. It's a disembodiment of certain kinds, right? Thankfully, I actually ran into someone who understood what was going on with me and has grounded me, okay, and pointed it out to me. So I want to speak to you in Amalia in terms that you can understand. Okay, people, you need to communicate with your partner that you are a meditator. They're not going to understand transcendental meditation. The literal word of mantra is mind floats and be free. That's what it is. That's the literal translation. Man is mind, tra is to float or be free. Okay. So
True.
it's really, really good if you're going to lead a life of abstinence. And I was, during that time in my early years, I practiced abstinence as well for years. I don't want any questions from the panel as to how many years or any of those questions. Okay. I practiced
Neither do I.
abstinence. All right. I practiced abstinence
This
for
is
years.
confidential.
All right. I practiced
But the
abstinence.
intensity of other experiences can compensate for that.
Correct. Correct. But
Yes.
the way a meditator is going to experience sex is going to be a little bit different from the way somebody who doesn't meditate experiences sex.
True.
It is going to be a little bit different. But what I want you to do, Amalia, the individual that has taught me to be grounded, what she has done is basically found the parts of myself that I seek to want to avoid, because part of that floating process is that it distances you away from what is happening out here. Okay?
Yes.
And when you get inside that space, it is so euphoric that why am I back down here? But I want to give you a disclaimer here, because the individuals who taught me transcendental meditation did not give me the disclaimer. Okay?
Okay.
So I'm going to give you the disclaimer. Okay? This is not conducive for normal relationships. Okay? Okay?
No.
It's not conducive, and people are going to wonder what is going on with you. Like, I'm having sex with you and you're not there anymore. I mean, your body's there, but the rest of you isn't, and they can tell. They can tell.
Yes.
Okay?
But
So,
I could relate. Yes.
so you're going to have to change your diet. And if you did TM meditation, you're going to have to change your diet, first of all. I'm a nutritionist. I had to learn this so that you understand. I had to learn this. But I'm also vegan.
I'm not a vegetarian. No,
Oh, well.
I'm not a vegetarian.
But I'm vegan. So that didn't help my situation at all. It still doesn't, actually.
I know.
So
I know that meat grounds you. I know that.
Meat grounds you, but complex carbohydrates ground you even better, I have found.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to find some complex carbohydrates, and if you know you're going to have that hot date, order the sweet potato. Okay. Order the sweet potato and ground yourself and practice grounding techniques. I don't know if Juliette has any.
I do smoke. You know, I consider tobacco as a grounding tool for me.
Yeah, shamans all over the world
yes.
use tobacco as a grounding.
For cleaning and for grounding also, yes.
That's not an option.
I bless my cigarettes.
That's not an option
before I make it with my own hands.
You do?
Yes, I do.
You see, that's not an option for me. I don't smoke, I don't eat meat, and I don't drink alcohol. That's not good for me, is it? But anyway, so that's not good for me in the sense of grounding. Juliette, you have any advice for me as well?
I have a friend who really goes very high, and she sleeps on earthing sheets. And there are these sheets that apparently ground you more and that really have the earth's frequency in it. So she sleeps on those. And a while ago, I came across these weighted blankets. I actually have used one when someone else took me through the process that I just took you through before. So on Friday, I was feeling quite high. And one of my friends has a weighted blanket. So I borrowed it and did the processes. So when I went into that nothingness, into that spaciousness, I could still feel the earth underneath me.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I'm experimenting with a PEMF mat right now, and that is actually helping quite a bit. We have one in the clinic in Barbados, where I'm broadcasting from right now. And this is actually helping quite a bit. So these devices, they do have some legitimacy, but if you don't have that kind of money to spend, you're going to have to take the nutrition cure, or you're going to have to practice grounding techniques, or your sexual practice has to change, okay? Because you need to stay connected with your partner. There is nothing worse than having sex with somebody, I'm guessing, because I wouldn't know, because I'm the one who's floating off. All right. There's nothing worse than having sex with somebody and then them becoming, for want of a better way of putting this, disembodied. And you're there wondering what just happened. Okay. So it was pointed out to me, actually.
For the other partner to ground, to hold them down. Yeah, to put their body on top of them sometimes and really just really press down. That helps as well.
Oh, that does?
It does.
Okay. Note to self. Amalia, was that good advice for you? Is she there? Amalia, are you still there?
We lost her audio.
Okay, so Jen, let's go to the next caller then. Jen?
Okay, so we will be having Sarkis. I'm going to unmute him for a while. I can find him. Okay, so I can find Sarkis for some reason. Okay, so let's have Oksana Becker. You are now unmuted.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Oksana, where are you calling from?
From Washington, D.C.
Okay, your video is on. I'm just letting you know.
Okay.
Are you decent?
Okay, yes, I'm decent.
Okay, good. So, Oksana, you're calling from Washington. Tell us, what questions do you have for us?
Okay, so I recently, well, not recently, 7 months ago, I found out that my partner had a one-day affair. It took me a good 6 months to get through the whole pity party process. And now I'm kind of getting into how do I get back into that connection and just the whole, just getting back the energy between us.
Okay, Juliette, I'm going to defer to you on this one. Juliette and Alex, tell us, you are the relationship coaches.
I would actually take you through dyad now as well.
Oh, wow.
I would say, tell me one secret you've kept from me.
What secrets he kept from me?
You tell me one secret you kept from whoever, from him, from me. Just say that I am the person that you're talking to. It might be your husband, might be your partner.
Okay.
And it could be, I didn't like the way you opened the door for me, or I didn't like that you snored.
Wow, the snoring part for sure. I think I would be not knowing what he does on his trips.
Thank you. Tell me a secret you kept from me.
I learned something last year what happened to his childhood that I didn't know about.
Thank you. And it could also be something that you've kept from him. So tell me a secret you kept from me.
Maybe parts of my childhood, what happened to me in childhood.
Thank you. Tell me a secret you kept from me.
That I was also attracted to one person a long time ago.
Thank you. Tell me a secret you kept from me.
But sometimes I don't feel loved.
Thank you. Tell me a secret you kept from me.
Sometimes I feel that I take on more and expect you to do that instead.
Thank you. Tell me a secret you kept from me.
I want to be pampered and treated as the goddess that I am.
Thank you. So I would start connecting with your man in that way. And did you feel yourself drop into it?
Mm-hmm.
What you want? And to really what it is that you desire. You do 10, 20 minutes of this. You'll be so on the same level because you're both dropping off all those formalities and all the surface things, and you really go deep. And then actually that is what builds trust. And that is what, if I feel you, that's what's gotten hurt. Your sense of trust, of trusting him, of trusting the man you love. And that once you rebuild trust, you can slowly start building different exercises and touching and feeling and going on dates or just spending date nights at home, 2 hours, an hour and a half, just full attention on it. That kind of focus attention will just bring your whole world back. And slowly does it. And also for yourself, I would give you some homework and actually write down a list of what you desire. Write down 5 desires. I desire whatever because it has me feel a certain way. And then I would also tell you, move your body, put some music on, take 3-4 minutes. If you can, move your body, look at yourself in the mirror, and really learn to love yourself and say, I love you. And it's tough at first, telling yourself in the mirror that you love yourself. Oh man, that's tough. I always thought that was easy until I did it myself. Like, wow. So take 5 minutes for yourself every day.
Yeah, I started doing the mirror technique, Louise Hayes, I love you. Well, yeah. Technique. It was hard, you're right.
And then I would add the dancing or some kind of movement. How do you like to move? What has you feel alive and sensual and sexy and what has you feel like a woman?
I'm going to add one thing, and this is really quite difficult sometimes, is always choose kindness.
It is.
Yeah, oh, trust me. Juliette will tell you how hard I find that, but it's just choose kindness. It's really difficult, but it pays, it has its own rewards.
Be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
We're our worst enemy. We're so mean to ourselves. If we hear that chatter, would you be friends with anyone that talks to you in that way? Never, right?
Yeah.
And also, I would actually find 3 things a day before you get to bed. 3 things a day. Just say them out loud or write them down. I'm grateful for this, for the way that it had me feel. And and if you can start adding in a gratitude for your partner, that would really open up your heart as well.
Yes, I noticed he was off my gratitude list for those months, and then recently I put him back on it.
Good. Well, you're doing great.
Yeah, doing great.
I mean, God, look at you. You've like transformed. You're shiny, and then just really, there's such a radiance to you.
Thank you.
I think you want to be witnessed. You want to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you both. Thank you.
And now that everybody's seen you, Oksana,
yes.
And now that everybody's seen you, first of all, I want to thank you. Not very many people are brave enough to come on here with video, but everybody has seen you, and you are beautiful.
Thank you.
You are. So Thank you for calling. Definitely, thank you.
Thank you.
Namaste. Okay, Jenny, spin the wheel of callers.
Thank you so much, Oksana. Okay, so I've seen Irene's hand raised, so let's have her. I will now unmute Irene.
Irene, are you there?
Yes, hi.
How you doing? Where are you calling from today?
Calling from West Vancouver, BC.
Vancouver, BC. Welcome to the show. You've been on before. What do you think of the show so far?
Oh, I love that you guys have brought different perspectives of life. So relationship is very important, and it's such a vast area. So thank you for bringing this variety into your show.
Thank you. And what questions do you have for the panel today?
So I wanted to kind of more explore into the spiritual aspects of fantasizing about other people when you are in a sacred relationship with someone, and how it seems to me is that when you have a partner you're engaging with sexually and you're connected to that person and you choose to bring someone else and replace your partner with another person, you are using your sexual and your most powerful energy in the sense of engaging with another person who's not there with you in flesh and blood. So you're kind of entangling with another person's energy, sexual energy, without their consent. And you're automatically entangling with the other person's spiritual issues, their dramas, their karma and drama that comes naturally. You're attaching yourself to that person. Like, how would you describe that? Because I see a lot of spiritual consultants and coaches in the sexual and relationship field seeing it as something healthy, and I see it as, okay, it could be bringing some maybe freshness into that aspect of a relationship, but it will be temporary, because when you connect to another person that's not there with you, who you're not sharing your life with, you're kind of disconnecting from this person, although it's in an energetical and in fantasy levels, but it will kind of cut cords with who you're actually engaging with, if that makes sense, and kind of dissociating from from the reality and who you're actually engaging with.
Can I jump in here?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so first of all, nice place, BC. We were just there. Wonderful. So that's the first thing I want to say. So do you know who David's first, I'm talking about myself in the third person again. Do you know who my first crush was on?
Like an actress or singer?
It wasn't a crush as in I want to sleep with this person, but I actually thought Smurfette was kind of cool. Okay. The reason why I'm bringing this up, is that reflects to think about people in that way, or engage in it. I think there needs to be a distinction here. If you have a sexual partner, romantic partner, and you're having sex with them, and the only way you can get off is by thinking about someone else, and it might not be the same person, it might be other people or whatever else, then I can see your argument with regard to the unhealthiness of it. I think when it is that you watch these documentaries or these therapists and they say it's healthy, it is because they do not want people to stigmatize this sort of practice. Because the other side of that coin is that, psychologically speaking, we have two levels of process. Okay, well, actually there are three, but we're going to deal with the first two. There is the conscious mind, as in I see something, I roll it around in my mind, I create a visualization, and I put power to it, and I'm having sex with this person in my mind. Okay? That happens 12, 20 times a day to the average woman walking down the street. Some man is going to look at you and say, okay, and he's going to fantasize about you. Then he might go home and have sex with his wife and be thinking, that redhead, I'm sorry, are you blonde or redhead?
Brunette.
Brunette. That brunette that I saw, my wife is now the brunette, okay? That may be classified as slightly dysfunctional. I'm not quite sure if it's unhealthy. The reason why psychologists and psychotherapists say it's a healthy practice is because it's also very natural. People are attracted to other people, and people have a primal instinct to procreate. And that primal instinct is driven by, I see this, I visualize it first before it happens. So there is that aspect. You need to make a distinction between the two things. One is reflexive, and it's part of our makeup, our natural drive to procreate. And unfortunately, or fortunately, as the case may be, you can't fight against human nature, okay? The other aspect of that is fighting against human nature will lead you into other kinds of dysfunctions. If you fight the thoughts become stronger. Do you understand what I'm saying, Irene?
Yes, I do, but I've also found out that saying prayers and revocations on a daily basis really helps with making sure you say no to others engaging with your sexual energy, because when in this reality, if we don't say no, it already means yes. So doing that, like the spiritual hygiene, and me and my husband, we do it very consciously. We say to ourselves every day, we know the people that we talk to, interact with on a daily basis, that could be entangled to a lot of porn, a lot of perversion. So we always cleanse ourselves. And before we engage in sex, we consciously connect through our hearts.
Okay, I need to caution you here. And I need to caution you here. The reason why I need to caution you is because what you've said is in and of itself interesting. Please understand that you and your husband make up 0.0000001% of the world's population. Okay, you guys do a spiritual practice where you try to clean the energies around you and clean the energies within you. Okay, the rest of the world's population may not have that facility, may not want that facility. Some people revel in the supermarket and the soup of sex that is out there in the etheric world. Okay, so having said that, you live in British Columbia, which I suppose you can do that because I've been there, right? In the real world, there is a lot of energy vampirism. There's a lot of what we call eye raping going on. And depending on your environment, most people don't have the luxury of controlling the environment. People go to work, they might have to walk down the street. Down the street is a bar from them, and they're going to get eye raped coming out of the office and getting into their car. Okay. So whereas I respect the spiritual practice that you do, it's not necessarily practical for a lot of people. We can suggest it, that they institute spiritual hygiene. The other thing that I want to caution you here about, some of fantasizing can be actually healthy, and I'll tell you why that is. The basis of manifesting things is that you see it first and then it happens.
Yes, that's what we actually do. Like before we engage, we also talk about what we would like to manifest and bring that into, when we're using our most sacred sexual energy, the most powerful energy we have, we rather direct it towards what we want to experience, both of us.
Yes, but Irene, you do realize that's what people are doing when it is that they fantasize about you or somebody else. They're trying to manifest something, right? Manifestation And visualization and manifestation are innately connected. So the man who sees you and goes home at night and masturbates while fixating you in his mind is not necessarily trying to draw you to him. He's trying to draw the other. So there is that. And I suppose it would be negative for you because you're the one being masturbated on.
Yes. And when my energy is used without my consent, that's why I think it's very important to say no. So whatever happens is between them and the universe to figure out what karma and drama goes towards them. And I already, like, when I claim that I do not want my energy to be engaged with anybody else in a sexual way, for them to not be able to harvest my energy in any way, shape, or form, I already closed that door. So I feel like doing that, it has really helped us to, not have other people that are maybe like masturbating, thinking about us, to pop up in our sexual relationship, because a lot of people say that other people randomly pop up when we are having sex with our partners. And I feel like a lot of it is because other people are really thinking about you, and because you're not saying no, you're already in a way engaging with them, although you're not aware of it.
Yes, but this is not to be taken to the extreme, because if you're concentrating, I want you to be very careful, because I used to teach classes on metaphysical philosophy. When you push against energy, energy will push back, okay? So be careful that you don't take this to an extreme, okay? There's a push and pull that comes from trying to displace energy. We don't want to get into the specifics of that. Someone in the chat asked, what is the concept of eye raping? Eye raping is quite simply this. I see this thing, I fixate it in my mind. Notice how I phrase that. I don't see this person. I see this thing, I fixate that image in my mind, and then I put energy behind possessing that image sexually and otherwise to bring it into my reality, okay? Lots of you who are listening to this podcast were eye raped long before you met your partner. That is a statement of fact. It's a statement of fact. Lots of you who are listening and are in relationships now were drawn in and magnetized to your partner through eye raping. Could be the co-worker who's in the next cubicle, who's going home at night and masturbating. The energy and the magnetism draws you to each other. You were eye raped long before you got into a consensual relationship. And that's just the nature of things. You understand what I'm saying? It is just the nature of things, and it's human interaction. And men do this a lot. They masturbate and they visualize. That's the only time I have had trouble teaching men visualization. But if they see a woman, immediately they get it. They can't learn it in a formal classroom, but if they want that, they will manifest it. So it becomes eye raping when you put energy behind it to manifest it, to magnetize this woman into your reality. And in that, I'm a little bit torn as to whether that's ethical or not ethical, because ethically speaking, it should be wrong, but then it's a natural phenomenon, and some people are not aware they're doing it. If I think of, okay, Irene, I'm going to use you as an example. Do not do a ritual and revocation on me, please. Okay?
Okay.
If I think of Irene, I can't see you. Okay? I can't see you, and I think, oh, Irene, I want to pull this person into my reality. Okay? I'm being a bit dark with myself. I fixate Irene in my mind. I see you in my mind's eye, and I put energy behind it to the extent that it passes off into my subconscious. And even when I'm going through my normal day, my mind is still pulling on you. That's horrible. That's deliberate. That's deliberate, and therefore it's theoretically wrong, because I'm trying to bend your will energetically. Understood?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So even when I meet you in the lunchroom or in an elevator, the pheromonal interaction between us will try to dominate you and draw you in. Okay? My body becomes a transmitting device for Irene-ness. Okay? But people do this naturally without the facility of intent. They do it naturally. The intent is to draw you in, but it happens subconsciously. It could be the nerdy guy down the road. You may not be attracted to him, but he's attracted to you. And his body will go through the normal processes of constructing his mind and his energy system to draw you in. But can you blame him? He may not have read the number of books that you've read, and I could tell that you're really well read, Irene. I see you in the chat, right? I could tell that you're really well read in terms of esoterics and philosophy and metaphysical philosophy. But can you blame that person from doing that? Let me ask you a question. Can you blame the cat from killing mice? It is instinctive.
Yeah, it is. And I don't blame them at all. I would see it as something that they're not aware. Maybe if they were aware of what this visualization come with, like maybe even the issues of me, if I was not aware, my karma and my drama could be translated to that person as well, and they could entangle with it. So when they're not aware and I am aware, the least thing I can do is do my due diligence to say no.
Absolutely.
And the rest is really up to whatever happens. I just make sure I say it clear and loud that I'm not going to allow my sexual energy to be engaged with any other people other than my partner.
And that's part of the spiritual hygiene aspect, okay? And the cleaning of yourself. Go ahead, Andrew.
I'm going to add something in here. There's a fine line where masturbation becomes obsessive and destructive. And oftentimes you have the little nerdy guy at work and he uses obsessive masturbation for domination because he has no control in his environment. There, Irene, is where it gets very entangled and dirty. But there's also an unseen karmic side. That person may have a spiritual contract to masturbate with you, and you may have created that in the womb as part of the infinite blueprint. So the fine line, when it becomes ultra obsessive, in your intuition goes, that's a creepy guy, then you go ahead and do your whatever it is, your journey to say no, 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 no. When you blanket everything, you are telling the universe you're not ready for other things too. So just understand, don't be zealotous back with the universe, because the universe is always trying to resolve something seen and unseen. And I want Juliette to step in here too, because I think you brought up some very, very important subjects.
Yeah, I would say really when it's a fleeting moment. So we're not doing it with intent, but just a moment, someone pops in. It's like, then let it go. Yeah. It's like, you can't beat yourself up in meditation either for having moments that come through, right? And there are lots of ways that we can protect ourselves. Yeah. I would say, if you guys are going to have a sexual act, seal the room energetically. Yeah. Sage it a little bit and then actually seal it. Put your 4 poles there. Make sure that it's all sealed. Yeah. When you go out and you don't want to attract sexual attention from people, put a force field around yourself.
Juliette, do you usually use a lot of force fields?
So, guys, we've been going for almost 2 hours and 40 minutes. Do you want to keep going? How you guys do feeling energy wise?
Well, it's like 12:40 at night here.
Yeah,
so
let's call it a wrap.
Let's call it a wrap.
So we're gonna have to really calm it down.
All right,
for a long time.
Do you want to give a way for people to get a hold of you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think best way to get a hold of me, because my website, darkobsidian.co.uk, is not up yet. But if you want to get in contact with me, my email is jckaraman, Karaman, @me.com. And Instagram, same name, jckaraman@me.com.
And Jenny, you want to drop that into the chat, please? jckaraman@me.com. There we go.
All right, guys, this has been special. Oh my God, we have got to do this again. Over the 5 platforms we had a big spike in the last hour, and a lot of people have a lot more questions to ask. And next time when we come back, I think we really have to just let that flow of energy come in. Thank you so much, Juliette, David, everyone. Oh my God, thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah,
yes.
it's a pleasure.
Thank you, guys. See you guys next time.
All right,
Thank
see
you.
next time. All right, take us away, Jen.